You're listening to the weekly Parsha Podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel, 5785, 2025. This week's Parsha is Parsha Vaeschanan, and Moshe Rabbeinu has the tefillah that's on all of our lips. The tefillah, the prayer, to be able to live in Eretz Yisrael, to be able to get to Eretz Yisrael, to be able to cross over that Jordan River, or that Atlantic Ocean, or whichever Mediterranean Ocean, whichever ocean blocks us from Eretz Yisrael, from getting in. And Moshe asks, Vaeschanan el Hashem, the very beginning of our Parsha, I supplicated in front of Hashem, I begged Hashem, Ba'is ahi lemor, at that time, and I said like this. Listen carefully, because this is our prayer, and we need to understand, how do we get our prayers answered? How do we get the vision? We have a vision, we want to get to Eretz Yisrael. How do we get that vision to be fulfilled? Before I continue, I just want to mention that this Parsha Podcast this week is sponsored, and it should be a zchus, it should be a great merit for the one who has sponsored it, and indeed, it will be. So he says like this. Now the pasuk is written, the first two words of this pasuk, and I'm going to read the pasuk with Hashem's name, because I want you to hear what it says. And it's written and read differently. Typically, when we have the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, with the letters of Hashem's holy name, so we read it with the name Aleph Daled Nun Yud. And when we have the name Elokim, then these different names, right? Aleph Daled Nun Yud means Hashem is my master, which has a certain amount of din to it. In fact, the word din is in there. But the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei denotes Hashem's mercy, and the name Elokim also denotes Hashem's justice, his din. Now, it's written Aleph Daled Nun Yud, that's the first name, and the second name is Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, which denotes first din and second mercy. But it's read differently. It's read Adonai Elohim Atah Achilois La'areses Avdecha Es Godlecha V'Siyodcha HaChazaka, which means the first name is the name of Adnos, of Hashem's mastery, and the second name is the name of, we read it Elokim, which means God's judgment. And we don't read it Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, and we're going to have the whole discussion as to why that is. But Moshe Rabbeinu addresses Hashem the way that it's expressed, the way that it's said, is that he speaks of Hashem's judgment. And he says, you started this. Atah Achiloisa, you started showing me. You gave me a vision of your greatness, of your powerful hand. Who is the God in the heavens and the earth? Who has the power to do what you can do your actions and your powerful deeds? And Moshe says, please fulfill my desire, fulfill what I believe is your will for me. Let me go over and let me see the great good land, Asher be'ever hayarden, on the other side of the Jordan River, Har hatayiv hazev alavonin, the good mountain, and the cedar groves of Lebanon. And Onkelos translates, I want to see the great good mountain, means Harabayis, and the Beis Hamikdash. I want to see the place that connects heaven and earth. And Moshe Rabbeinu laments, and he says, Vaysaber Hashem bi lemanchem. Hashem he was angry at me because of you. V'lishoma Elai, did not listen to me. Vayomer Hashem Elai, Rav loch al teisav daber Elai oy b'davar zeh. He says, stop, I don't want you to continue asking for this anymore. So Moshe Rabbeinu, he begs Hashem, and he invokes the name of Hashem, and he says, the name Adnos, the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, the name Elokim, he's trying to get it from all angles. He's saying, please Hashem, help me get into Eretz Yisrael, and Hashem says no. It's very interesting, the Ramban says, he's speaking here with the Tchina. He says, Vaeschanan. A Tchina is a supplication. It's begging. He's begging, not just praying, he's begging. And he says, you master of the world, who has compassion, right? The second name is written Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. You have compassion. You started off, you gave me a vision of the future. When I was 40 years ago, when I was standing here in the Midbar, in the wilderness, and I saw that burning bush, and you gave me a vision, you showed me what's going to be. I'm going to be the Redeemer of Klal Yisrael. I'm going to be the one who takes out the Jewish people from Egypt. I saw the vision and I understood that it meant I'm going to take them all the way there. He turned away. He was afraid to look at God. He was afraid to look at the judgment. The Ramban gets into details here, right? The pasuk refers to Hashem's Gedula and Gvura, which are Kabbalistic ideas, which I'm not going to get into. I understood, and this is this pasuk is saying, I understood God in heaven and earth. I understood the connections. I understood how you manifest in this world, and it's about Klal Yisrael getting to Eretz Yisrael, the fulfillment of the promise of taking them out and bringing them to the place they're supposed to be, where they serve Hashem, on that mountain in the Beis HaMikdash. And we see that Hashem gets upset. Hashem gets angry at Moshe because of the sins of Klal Yisrael. That's the psukim, and it's very difficult. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu denied? And we're going to see that a similar request was made by two other great tzaddikim, Avraham Avinu and David HaMelech, and they were granted the request. They requested, for some reason, there's something different about Moshe's request. Maybe it's the context, maybe it's the approach. I'm just going to offer a possible explanation. But for sure it's clear, and the Medrash says this explicitly, and we'll read it together. Avraham Avinu had a request, similar request to Moshe, and he was answered. Moshe Rabbeinu had this request, and he was given a no, a tough no. And we're going to try to understand what's the difference. Why does one person have a vision, and that vision is fulfilled? They have a request from Hashem, and that request is granted. And why does another one not have that request granted? What's the difference? And it's important for us. We got to pray correctly. When we want anything in life, we spoke about this in the Bitachon podcast. I'm giving you a hint if you heard the Bitachon podcast already. But there's a proper approach to the tefillah. There's a proper approach to asking that our dreams come true. Hashem Elokim atah achiloso. Ma'u Hashem Elokim. What is this concept of Hashem Elokim? Why do we have the name Adnos and the name Elokim, which is really written Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei? What's this? There's like an outer aspect of judgment and there's an inner aspect, right? Because we have the way it's read, which is the outer aspect. Min hasafa el hachutz, like there's an expression in Hebrew from the lips and outwards. There's the external aspect of it, the way that it's said, Elokim, but it's written, which we see, but it's written with Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, which denotes Rachmanas. So what's the idea? Amar Yeshua ben Karcha. Yeshua ben Karcha points out, B'shnei mekayim Dima Moshe atzmei la'Avraham v'lo haya lo klum. There are two places that Moshe Rabbeinu tried to do something similar to Avraham Avinu, and it didn't work for him. Let's see what the two places are. Kesad. Avraham kar le'Hakadosh Baruch Hu v'amar hineni. Hashem calls to Avraham. Hashem reveals himself to Abraham. And Abraham responds and he says, Hineni, here I am. I'm ready. I'm ready to do whatever you want, Hashem. Hineni lekahuna, hineni lemalchus, says the Medrash. Here I am. I'm ready to be a Kohen. I'm ready to be a priest. I'm ready to be the connector person between Hashem, you, and the people of the world. Hineni lemalchus, I'm ready to be a king and understand what a king is. A king is very similar to a Kohen. A king is somebody who serves as a representative of Hashem in the world. Klal Yisrael is a mamleches koyanim. V'goy kadosh. We are a kingdom, of priests. That's who the Jewish people are. We represent Hashem in the world. That's what a king does. A king is concerned about his people. A king is guiding his people, making sure that everything that's going on in the kingdom is for the benefit of his people. He's not there for himself, to be rich, to have wives, to have every comfort. That's not what a king is about. It's a servant leader. That's what a true king is. And Avraham Avinu shows up and says, I'm here, I'm ready. I'm ready to be your liaison in the world, bringing your word to the people of the world. And I'm ready to be there to pray on their behalf. He davens for Sodom, the most wicked people. I'm ready to pray on their behalf. I'm ready to wish good upon them, to do chesed, to do kindness. Avraham Avinu, what does it say about him? Zachal kahuna, zachal malchus. He got both. He got priesthood and he got kingship, right? Who comes from Avraham Avinu? All the Kohanim. Who comes from Avraham Avinu? All of the Malachim, all the kings. Pasuk says in Tehillim, Hashem swore that, and he won't relent upon it. He made an oath. He promised, you're going to be Kohanim. Melchizedek lost the kahuna, and it went to whom? To Avraham. He also merited to be a king of the world, as Mashiach will be. Mashiach is not just going to be the king of the Jewish people, he's going to be the king of the world. Pasuk says in Bereshis that he came to the Emek Shaveh, the valley of the king. That's important. It's important. He came to the valley of Shaveh. The word Shaveh means equal. Maybe we'll have a chance to talk about what Shaveh means. I'm not sure if it's going to happen this time, but let's just say that Shaveh means everything is equal. Everything is the same to me. Doesn't matter to me if you insult me, if you compliment me, it's all the same. And that's the same place as the Emek HaMelech, the valley of kingship. The valley of kingship is where Avraham reached. Avraham was a person who was able to get kingship. What is kingship? As we said, it's the servant leader. I'm just here to save my nephew. And I'm here to take care spiritually of other people. That's what it's about. Moshe also made this request that his offspring should be priests and his offspring should be kings. Hashem calls to Moshe, he calls to him twice, and Moshe also responds and says, Hineni, here I am. I'm ready to do your bidding, Hashem. I'm ready to serve you in any way that you wish. Hineni lekehuna, hineni lemalchus. I would like to be the father of Kohanim. I would like to be the father of kings. Which is not what happened, right? His brother Aaron became the father of the Kohanim. Was it his brother-in-law Nachshon? Or it was Aaron's brother-in-law Nachshon? Nachshon ben Aminadab would be the great-great-grandfather of the kings. So he didn't have that, he didn't have the kahuna and he didn't have the malchus. Somewhere like Kodesh Baruch Hu, al tishader lifnei melech, v'makom gedolim al ta'amoid. And we'll need to see this pasuk and try to understand it. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. It says, don't make yourself great in front of the king. In the place of great ones, don't stand. Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all men, the king, David HaMelech's son, he said, if you want to be a king, don't stand up in the place of kings. If you want to be great, don't stand up in the place of the great ones. The path into greatness, you can't get there by making yourself great. The path to greatness is only by making yourself small. The Emek HaShaveh, the valley that we spoke about in regards to Avraham. Let's see. Hashem tells Moshe, don't come so close. He said, just back off. You're not going to be able to be the one who's the priest. Your brother Aaron is going to be. Shenemar Vazara Karev Yumas. The pasuk says, a stranger who comes in will die. Which is interesting because both of these things Moshe Rabbeinu did have. He was the first priest. the very beginning, during the 7 days of the Miluim, when they were about to put up the Mishkan, he was the one who served there. He was the priest. But then Aaron takes over, and that's it. And he was the Melech. He was a king for a time. He was a king during his lifetime. But that ended. His children did not continue his reign. Yoshua took over. You're not going to continue. You're not going to have kingship. It just ends here. Moshe Rabbeinu is standing on the precipice. He wants to enter into Eretz Yisrael. He wants to complete the job. He wants that it should continue with him. Just as Avraham wanted. Avraham said, I don't want to someone else. And if you look at the context of the Psukim where Avraham is asking, we're going to see as we continue here. Maybe we should read further before I explain. Avraham Amar Hashem Elokim matiten li. So that was the first thing. Let's just get it clear. That was the first instance where Avraham asks for kahuna and melucha, for priesthood and kingship. It's granted. Moshe Rabbeinu asks for the same thing. It is not granted. It doesn't continue. It doesn't move past him. He's got it for a moment and then it's gone. Avraham Omer, the second context where we see a parallel between Moshe and Avraham is where Avraham says, Hashem Elokim matiten li. Hashem has promised Avraham that he's going to have children and he's going to have a glorious spiritual future. And Avraham says, I don't have any kids. Maybe Eliezer is going to be the one, maybe Yishmael. Maybe these are going to be my spiritual heirs. Hashem, and it says, Hashem Elokim matiten li. Very interesting. The way that he phrases it is what's going to be. He doesn't make a demand. He says, what's going to be with my spiritual future? It seems like I don't have any kids and there's not going to be any future. So Rabbi Levi gives us a hint. Rabbi Levi says, what was he saying? Because he says Hashem Elokim, just like Moshe in our pasuk refers to Hashem as my master, and then Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, but he doesn't say Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, he says Elokim. He says God's name which denotes his attribute of justice. So, Avram said it, Moshe said it, and what does it mean? Reb Levi says, he says, I don't know if I can have kids. I know that you have two different ways of manifesting in the world. Sometimes it's through compassion, and sometimes it's through din. Sometimes it's based on, do I deserve it or not? Mida keneged mida. So Avram said, look, if I deserve it, great. Let me have those kids. If I don't deserve it, have rachamim, have compassion. Let me have them anyway. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem responds and says, Chayecha b'din mispakish l'cha. Hashem says, you know what? I'll tell you, you deserve it. You deserve it. You need Hashem love, and Hashem shows to him, and as the Meforshim explain here, and it's a reference to a different medrash, which we're probably not going to have time to see, that Hashem walked in, as it were, to reveal that he's going to have kids, not just himself, but he sent 3 angels to also bring the news to Avraham Avinu and to Sarah. So there was Hashem himself, which is the inner aspect, is his rachamim, revealing to Avraham that he's going to have kids. He's going to have a future. There's going to be a spiritual continuation. And the angels also communicated that, which is the outer aspect, because angels, as we've seen in weeks ago, we saw that angels are more bedin. They're a lower aspect. They're spiritual, yes, but they have more judgment. There's more judgment involved. And Hashem brought the angels to give over the message to say to Avraham, don't worry, even the angels agree to this. Which means to say, even the Midas Hadin, the attribute of Hashem's divine judgment, agrees to this. Moshe Rabbeinu tried to use the same request, the same type of request, and said, look, Hashem, who is also the God of justice, and he's also the God of mercy. If I need din, if it's possible that I could deserve it, let me get into the land of Israel. But if not, let me get in with compassion. Medrash brings the same pasuk in Mishlei. You're not going to have that schus. You can't make yourself to be someone or somewhere that you're not. You're not going to go over the Jordan. Interestingly, the Jordan is also Yardain. The word dan, which means judgment, is there. You're not going to pass the judgment. You're not going to get past and on through the judgment. So the Medrash finishes off and just says that Moshe saw it was too hard. It was too impossible. He tried to bust it through, but he wasn't able. And so he spoke in a tough way to Am Yisrael. But what's the difference? Why is Moshe not answered, and why is Avraham answered? And as we'll see, David is also answered, King David. Medrash is in Parshas Lech Lecha, on this psukim that we just read, where Avraham Avinu says, "What's going to be? Matitenli, what are you going to give me? I'm childless. I don't yet have the children. We're going to be the future of Am Yisrael. I don't yet have that kehuna. I don't yet have the priesthood. I don't yet have the malchus." Says the Medrash, Rabbi Yudin, Rabbi B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Shnei b'nei Adam amru davar echad, Avram v'David. Two people said the same thing. Abraham and King David. Avram k'siv be'Hashem Elokim atitenli. He said this language, Hashem, the God of mercy, God of judgment, what will you give me? He says something profound. He says, according to the Medrash, I don't want kids unless I only want kids, Hashem, if those kids are going to be good kids. If it's going to turn out that any of my children are not going to do your will, are not going to lead the Jewish people, not going to lead mankind to you, to a relationship with you, I don't want any kids. I know that it's my destiny to have kids. I know that it's my destiny to have kehuna, to have malchus. But I don't want it unless it's going to be a kiddush Hashem, unless it's going to be a sanctification of your name. That's what Avram said. David Amar, Chakreni Ke'avadalavavi. King David says in Tehillim in chapter 139, verse 23, check me out and know my heart. Know what's in my heart. Da Parsha Mimeni. David said a similar thing. He said, I want you to look at, I don't want kids unless I want you to clarify what's in my heart, what's in the atzmius of who I am, what's in the essence of who I am, and where do my kids come from? They are an offshoot of my heart, of who I am at my core. And David says, I want you to check out my heart and see if there's anything bad in there. Because if there's anything in there that's not aligned with your will, I'm not interested in those kids that are going to come out that are not going to be aligned with your will. See if there's any sadness in me, and guide me in the way of the world. He's saying, if I'm going to have any kids that are going to make you sad, Hashem, that are going to turn away from you, that are going to cause Am Yisrael to turn away from you, and I know the power inside of me, I know the future, I know what my offspring is supposed to be. They're going to be leaders just as I am. So I don't want them I don't want you to give me anything. I'd rather have nothing. I don't want a future. Unless the future contains you. Unless the future serves you, Hashem. So, I'm nervous about what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. But I think that our Medrash and our Parsha hints to this. When it brings the pasuk in Mishlei. And the pasuk in Mishlei says, Al tishader lifnei melech. What was the response to Moshe Rabbeinu when he said, I'm here, I'm ready. I want Malucha, I want Kahuna. And what was the response to him when he said, please let me go into Eretz Yisrael? Hashem says to him, Al tishader lifnei melech, v'mokum gedol matamoid. You can't pick yourself up into that place. You don't get into the place of greatness by making yourself great. Avraham and David did the opposite of that. They said, don't give me. They said, don't give it to me unless it's going to be for you. Unless it's good for you, Hashem. Don't give it to me unless it's good for you. I'd rather have nothing. I'd rather continue childless, Avram said. And David said, I don't want any future unless it's good for you, Hashem. The Ralbag says here, Al tishader lifnei melech laseis maila gedula la'atzmecha. El hatamid lefanav b'shiflus. You want to know how to come into the king? You want to know how to get an audience with the king? You want to know how to be a servant of the king who serves everyone else? Who guides Klal Yisrael? That's who a king is. You want to know how to be a kohen? A priest who is the connector between Hashem and Am Yisrael? You can't walk in there as a king. You can't walk in there thinking you're great. You can't walk in there thinking you deserve it or anything is coming to you. Aval tamid lefanav b'shiflus, the Ralbag says, come in there lowly. I don't want anything for myself. King, how can I serve you? King, how can I make your will manifest in the world? You want to hang out with the winners? You want to hang out with the chashuv people, the dignitaries? You can't walk in there as a dignitary. Nobody respects that. They're already great. You want them to pick you up because you have lowered yourself. Who do you appreciate? Who do I appreciate? Who do we all appreciate? When we see someone who's only there not for themselves, let's say a Rav, who's not there because he needs you to be there. He doesn't need you to be listening to his shiur. He doesn't need you to be his congregant. He's not there because he was elected. He's there because he's there to serve you. That's the king. That's the guy who gets lifted up to a position. The one who's there, who wants to serve because of no benefit of his own. He doesn't get anything. He doesn't get a paycheck. He doesn't get any honor. He doesn't get anything. That's Avraham. That's David. They said, I don't want it for myself. If it's about me, it's only about you, Hashem. I just want kids so that they can serve you. I just want my vision to be fulfilled so that your vision can be fulfilled. Moshe wasn't Zeicha. He didn't merit that his kids should continue in his way. The Malucha and the Kahuna went elsewhere. And obviously it's difficult to understand. It's difficult to say anything negative. But the Medrash says it, brings this pasuk. And so what we get from this, if we want our visions to be fulfilled, we want a future. We want kids. And what do we want out of our kids? We want them. And this is what our prayer has to be. We want our kids to be those who will serve Hashem, who will be those who help Am Yisrael serve Hashem. That is our prayer. That is our tefillah. That's our vision. And it's not about me. It's not about me being great because my kid is great. And that's a natural thing, a natural feeling, but it's not about that. It's only about Hashem. It's only about you, Hashem. How will this help you, my God, to be revealed more in the world? I want to bless you and I ask you to bless me. Hashem should help us to have this prayer, to have this goal, to have this vision. And Hashem should bless us that all of our visions and all of our dreams should be fulfilled. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.